Welcome back to number 2 of my Party Hats and Streamers series. Now, with this video, I'm going to show you 10 different designs, and it will end up being 11 cards. This is because one of the designs I ended up having enough materials and liked it to make an extra. Now, in my first video, I showed you how to make the party hat using the dies from the card kit. So if you're interested in seeing how I assembled the hat, please go ahead and watch number 1. So with this party hat, I chose to not use the pom-pom that came from the die, and I used just a simple circle instead. But before I get to that, I'm going to put my Make a Wish words down onto a gold piece of cardstock. And as I said in my first video, recently I have been drawn to circles. So I've been using a lot of circles, circle punches to be more specific. And they're in a lot of my cards this time. So hopefully you like circles. Anyway, I'm going to put down Make a Wish, and these are the words that are part of the dies from this kit. So if you're interested in seeing what's all in the kit, I did do one unboxing video that's fairly short, just showing what's all in the kit. So if you've done a kit before, I encourage you to try to do different designs. And if you haven't made any cards with a kit before, I encourage you to try it. I mean, it's very reasonably priced. And typically I make about 30 cards, so it ends up being about $1 per card if you are going to try to divide up the value of the card kit for what you are going to make in the end. It's about $1 a card, and you can't buy $1 a card handmade nice looking cards for $1 at any store. I know Dollar Tree sells cards, but eek. Ugh. They are flat as a board. They don't have extra dimension, etc. Don't get me wrong, I do love Dollar Tree for other things, but I don't know. I cannot bring myself to buying a card at Dollar Tree after making cards at home and enjoying the process. But value aside, it is so fun to make cards yourself. So I find it a stress reliever, and it really is just a very fun creative outlet. And you can do it with friends. That's how I started my card making journey, if you will. A friend invited me over, and her and another friend and I made a card, and I still have that first card, and I will never get rid of it because I'm sentimental. Anyway, back to my cards. So for this card, I'm using a lot of scrap paper and just making different layers, getting creative with the different sizes of scraps, and just going from there. And if you struggle with any kind of design ideas, I encourage you to look at some card sketches. If you just look up online card sketches, it has a lot of different pictures of different card sketches. So it won't always have color and design of pattern paper or anything like that on it. Usually it's just black and white, but it does give you a little bit of idea of how to make different card designs if you're not used to coming up with your own per se. I typically haven't used them in a while just because I've gotten used to the process of making my own designs, but it's definitely a fun thing to start off with. So this card kit of the month is very birthday themed and pretty playful. So a lot of these cards will probably end up going to people for their birthday. And like I said in my first video, the stamps and dies for this month's kit can be reused over and over and over. And I definitely will be using those candle stamp that I used in my first video with some scraps. I love that candle set. It's adorable. So I'll just finish this card off with 3 sequins. Just add a little bit of shine. Then for this card, I think this one ended up being my favorite from this video just because I love the text paper and I love the soft orangey pink colors. So, and the gold mirror cardstock. If you know, you know. All right, these little borders were pretty neat, but they did not stretch my whole card. So I ended up offsetting them, one to the right, one to the left, and I'm going to cover up the blank space that they do not cover with 2 flowers. And they both are from the die cut shapes. One does not have a black circle in the center and one does. So I decided after putting down the second flower that the first one that doesn't have a circle in the center really does need something. So I used the tiny die from the kit that cuts out the center of the flowers. You can see it right there. And I just used a little piece of black scrap paper and die cut out 2 little centers. One was big, one was small. It didn't really matter to me, so I went with it and just put those, kind of tucked them in so you can kind of see a little bit of it, but not too much. And luckily, art glitter and barely art glue dries clear, so no problem there. Next, I will take the Woohoo and put that right onto the paper, and they are fairly sticky, so I just had to be a little bit careful. I thought maybe I'd offset it one to the right, one to the left, but I decided that I liked the way it looked with it layered on top of each other. And that one went flying. So I just delicately adjusted them how I would like them to go, and then I gave them a firm press, like so. Then I'm going to take the candle, which is a chipboard piece, and just put that right to the right of the Woohoo. That sounds so weird. The Woohoo. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I love my reverse tweezers for jobs just like this one. The one I have is from EK Tools, but really anyone would work. Then I will finish off the card by adding 3 sequins and adding the heart banner in the inside. I also thought that I wanted to add some gem. These are leftover gems from the Feeling Hoppy card kit of the month from Spellbinders, and I thought that the pink tones just really matched the gems, and there's gold flecks in them, so I thought it went nicely with the gold mirrored cardstock as well. But it's nice to give things like gems or sequins another chance on different cards after, because I rarely will run out of sequins or gems from a card kit because they load you up with quite a lot. And I do use them quite a bit, and I will put some in shaker cards, so they definitely will be used eventually. Now I'm going to use the borders that came in the kit to make a little bit of a frill behind my oval, where my oval will be sitting. And cutting them in half doesn't really matter as long as the one side lines up with the other side. Next, I'm going to put down my large oval just with some liquid glue, and since it's pattern paper, it's a bit thin, so I go around the edge first just to make sure that it is secure on the card. This is quite busy pattern paper, and the sentiments that I chose and the pieces of chipboard and ephemera are pretty matchy, so I kind of pulled them off of the oval just so they would stand out, like the candy and the little smiley faces. They are adorable with their little heart eyes. Now with the Let's Party, it is the puffy words. I used every single puffy word that was in this kit because I thought that the font was just perfect. It's either the scripty font or it's the font that is the all capital letters, which I used on in my last video. I used what did it say? Just say yay. It said just say yay. Yes. So it's pretty neat, and it matches the chipboard there with the birthday. It says birthday on this one, and then there's another one that said birthday hugs, sending birthday hugs. So I like that it all matches, but it's not too matchy, unless you want it to be. Like this card, I wanted it to match. Smiley faces with the smiley face paper, candy with the candy paper. So hopefully that makes sense. But if not, let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the process or any tools I used, whatever it is, just let me know. Now, this card is similar, but it's not the same. So I wouldn't call it a sister card, maybe a cousin card. If you're new, you might not know what I mean by sister card. It's a term that I just decided to use myself, which I do sometimes. But the sister card is a card, two cards that look similar, using similar materials, but are not the same. A twin card, I also use that term. Twin card is one that looks, two cards that look exactly the same. But this one, I use a couple different things, so it's more like a cousin. I hope I don't sound crazy. Oh well. Anyway, this is art. Now, I was putting this candle piece on and realized, it's too short because this is a scrap. But I just cut it. And I'm going to put an oval over the top so no one will even know, except you who was watching the video. And yes, sometimes I have to bring my paper trimmer in just to get a clean edge. So, I don't know. I think it's important to leave in the mistakes because, I don't know, when I first started making cards, I thought, wow, everyone does beautiful cards and they just know what to do and they don't make mistakes. They don't drop their ink. They don't cut paper too short. Yeah, that's not the reality. Everyone makes mistakes. So you either have to go with it or start over. And a lot of times I just go with it because I kind of like the creative process of just making things and seeing what happens. Now, I do have a few people who ask, well, how do you know what goes with what? Like, how do you know what to put together? So I will just say I haven't filmed anything about how I do that too much, but if you're interested, please let me know and I might do it for the July kit. We'll see. I'm not really someone who wants to keep all the tips and tricks hidden, but the whole point of this is just show how to use the kit and be creative yourself and just make new things. So let me know. Anyway, I had to put these little sunglasses in the center since it didn't quite look good to me on the outside, but I definitely wanted it to go with this card. Now, these two cards that I'm holding in my hand did not make it to the video. I had a filming issue. So since they are exactly the same, I would call those a twin card. Now, here's some sister cards. Thank you for bearing with me. This is a true sister card because it's using similar materials, but not the same product in the end, but they're basically the same card. The only thing that's different is the chipboard sentiment. On one says happy birthday, and on the other one says have an amazing birthday. So I loved this black and white cake paper. I thought it was so neat, and I think that any scrap of it I will definitely be using on a birthday layered card, a birthday cake card, like I did in my first video, just to use it up. And I think it would be funny to have the cake paper made into a cake. I don't know. And this birthday or happy B-Day directional paper I thought was really pretty too because it matches the cakes without being too matchy. And by that I mean it's kind of playful and the cakes in the background are more like the elegant birthday cakes, but it does match the color. And I will finish off this one by adding in some of these little starred asterisk, I guess you could call them, little pieces. And I put 5 on this one. And with this one, I just layered everything down. I didn't put that on the video since you just watched me do it already. And I'm going to put on the little asterisks, and I use 3. Since I like to work in odds, one has 5, one has 3. Now with this card, this ended up being one of my favorites because of the colors are so bright and cheerful. First, I'm going to take a little piece of pattern paper that I just made into a banner, and I'm going to put that directly onto the card base. And then I have this little cluster of loveliness here that I put onto the circle. Now, I love the way that it is now. So I'm going to preserve my design setup here by using a little bit of craft tape and securing everything into place. Then when I go to glue it down in a minute here, it doesn't slide around. Another way to do that is using cling wrap, glad cling, well, say that 3 times fast, glad cling wrap, or using washi tape, or if you're feeling like really confident, you could just see it in your mind and try it over again. But to me, the purple tape works really well. You just have to be kind of gentle when you remove the tape afterwards. All of those pieces are a mix of ephemera and chipboard. Now, I thought the bottom right looked a little bare, and I was feeling bold and wanted to put a sentiment in the bottom. So since I already have everything exactly how I want it, I had to be careful. So I wanted to pull out my Misty and stamp this without error. And luckily, I did it. Hindsight is 20/20, and I definitely would have put down the stamp first before putting everything on, but such is life, living on the wild side. All right, now this card is pretty fun and playful. I used my circle punch again and punched out a few different size circles. I think I have a 2.5, a 2, and a 1.5 circle. Inches, that is. And I will just adhere all of those pieces right onto the card. I sometimes like to make the card have motion, so go from the left to the right. So when you're looking at it, your eye moves around. It's something that I learned in high school from an art teacher, just that the viewer's eye should move around the piece and not just be focused on one area if you're doing some kind of a collage. So that is what I'm doing. And these little asterisk puffy stickers were just so neat. So they ended up on this card, and I thought it would be kind of like confetti flying around. Now again, stamp first. I know you would think that I would learn by now. I don't. And I'm going to use the exact same sentiment as I just used in my last card, but I had to move it up just a little bit so it would fit. And luckily enough, it did turn out. If it did not turn out, I'm not sure what I would do. I probably would have to pull up the cake and put down a piece of pattern paper to cover it up, but luckily I did not have to go and fuss with that. Now this other card is pretty similar, so I would call this maybe like a sister card, and I decided to clump things around the cake instead of having it go from the top, because I needed space on the top part of the card to put in the puffy sentiment birthday girl. So I will put that onto my card, and I dropped it. And what I do then is I take my chamois, which is my stamp cleaner, and I just give it a quick wipe. And you can't tell. Like I said, I leave the mistakes in because I want to encourage people to try things even if they don't know how, because everyone is new at some point. So if you're new, don't be scared. And if you are not new to card making, I hope you appreciate my mistakes because I'm sure that you've made some as well. Now, the purple tool that I have in my right hand is the Tool-in-One from Spellbinders, and it does have a kind of a picking, like a very sharp toothpick tool that goes on the end that I really enjoy using for picking out any center pieces of letters. And the other side I use a lot for die cutting, especially when I do any of my stitching cards, just to get all of the little holes out. Now the girl, I needed it to go a little bit lower because of the Y is quite low. So I'm just going to offset girl to the right so it has its own space. Again, I love this font and I think it's very pretty and girly. And it definitely looks like handwriting from someone who has pretty handwriting. I just added a little bit of glue for my eyes because it is a very small little dot and I wanted to make sure that that's stuck on. But if it did not stick and maybe it falls off in the future, a tip that you could use if that little dot falls off any of your eyes or J's, you could put on a little gem of a rhinestone or something on the eye, and the recipient would never know that that was a mistake. So, just a little tip. Anyway, here are all of my cards that I made from this video, and I do have one more coming up, so stay tuned for that one. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe for more videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!